37th Circuit Court is now in session with the Honorable Brian K. Kirkham presiding. It is Thursday, September 19th, 2024 at 8:42 a.m. for 2019-2687 DC, Ori Cronkite versus Taylor Morgan, and the interveners.
Okay.
Attorney Reed for the plaintiff and Attorney Bartel for the defendant and the interveners.
Okay. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Your Honor.
This is the time and place set for the evidentiary hearing on the intervener's motion for grandparenting time. And Mr. Bartel, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Ms. Reed?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Bartel, are there any preliminary matters before we commence?
The only thing I would indicate, at least on my end, Your Honor, I have Dr. Haugen. He's not able to appear today. I don't know how long testimony will take. So I would ask that, and as this court knows, he's testified in this court many times before. He has conflicts at times. He can appear for October 1st. So I would just like to make note of that in case we have to go out of order.
Okay. Ms. Reed, is there any problem with taking Dr. Haugen out of order?
There's not a problem with taking Dr. Haugen out of order, but I would object to Dr. Haugen testifying as a witness since he has not examined this child. There's been no psychological assessments of this child by Dr. Haugen. He hasn't met this child, so any testimony would be pure speculation.
Okay, well, what we'll do is, obviously, as you have no trouble taking him out of order, then we'll address that at the time that Dr. Haugen's going to testify. You can raise the objection at that time. Anything that you have, Ms. Reed, preliminarily before we commence?
Preliminarily, I have the motion for summary disposition that we filed. And then I also wanted to do a motion in limine to have Mr. Bartel make a specific offer of proof regarding the relevant testimony of these 17 witnesses on his witness list. Again, it's our opinion that none of these witnesses have had any contact with the parties, my clients, or this child in almost a year now. So how are they going to be able to testify of firsthand knowledge of substantial risk of harm to this child or in the best interest of this child when they have not had contact with her?
Okay. Well, court's not going to, I guess you'd say, prematurely determine what the witnesses may or may not testify to or what the basis for their testimony may be. As we get to each witness, we can address that. But again, to do otherwise, the court would be basically looking at and total conjecture as to what they may testify. I don't know what they've seen or what they have not seen, et cetera. So at this point, I'm going to deny your motion in limine, and I'm not going to require Mr. Bartel to give an offer of proof as to any of the particular witnesses. He can call the witnesses as you normally would call them. Ms. Reed, if you want to go ahead with your motion for summary disposition, you can go ahead.
I'm not going to repeat everything contained in the motion, as I'm sure the court has read it, and I've read Mr. Bartel's response. But the basics is, even if all the claims in the motion are true, for argument's sake, the grandparents have failed to allege that Ari is an unfit parent. They have failed to allege any substantial risk of harm to the child's mental, physical, or emotional well-being created by Ari's decision to deny grandparenting time. And as a matter of law, they cannot rebut that or overcome the presumption. That's again in their own motion. They only say that they only use the word detriment or detrimental, and that is not the correct or required legal standard, nor is it a detriment or detrimental to the child to deny grandparenting time when the child does not want to see the grandparents. She's old enough to state her preference. I believe the court interviewed the child in this matter, and if she's any way consistent with what she's repeatedly told my client, she probably informed the court she does not want to see the grandparents. So now the grandparents are trying to claim that there is a substantial risk of harm and we just don't see it. And I don't see how they can claim a substantial risk of harm when they waited 6 months after they had not seen this child to file this motion. If there was a substantial risk of harm to this child, they would have filed it immediately in November when that contact was stopped. Further, like I had just previously said, none of these witnesses have seen or had significant contact with the child in almost a year now. The grandparents haven't had contact with the child in almost a year now, so they have no firsthand knowledge about her mental, emotional, or physical well-being. They are also out of touch with this child. They don't even know that she can write. They don't know how she's doing in school. And the Court of Appeals had already reviewed the motion and the affidavit and our response, and had determined that the record does not reveal that there was deference given to the plaintiff's decision to deny grandparenting time, or that the grandparents rebutted that presumption. And they've already reviewed everything that we believe that they can offer. So what additional information can they provide to the court when they have not seen this child in this long to rebut that presumption? They just can't. There hasn't been any harm done to the child. There's no risk of harm being done to the child as a result of the denial of grandparenting time. But there has been harm done to the child through mental and emotional abuse by the grandparents telling the child that Ari is not her father, taking a scorched earth approach to impose their will on this 6-year-old when she does not want to go, causing immense financial harm and strain to my client having to litigate this to defend his constitutional right as a parent and protect the child's wishes and desires from being forced into time and a relationship with someone she does not want. Grandparents have established immense hostility towards my client via efforts trying to force grandparenting time, trying to find him in contempt, blasting him all over Facebook, calling him disgusting and that he's sick, and telling this child to conceal and lie to her father, that he's not the father, which is greatly upsetting to this child, and that impacts their own moral fitness. So in all, it's clear that Ari has a constitutionally protected right to make decisions about the care, custody, and management of his child. And that also includes who the child sees and does not see. And the court recognizes the presumption that a fit parent will act in the best interest of their child. They cannot rebut the presumption. Their motion doesn't even mention the presumption or any indication that they can. Now, I have read Mr. Bartel's response, and he kind of alludes that I asked for a adjournment for maybe improper means to file a motion for summary disposition, and that's not true. I had concerns that this was going to be a trial of ambush, and I think my concerns were valid, being that now we have a 17-person witness list, and this was scheduled this late because Mr. Bartel had a scheduling conflict earlier, because I do believe the first date we were given was the 5th of this month. I had the appropriate time, so I believed it was appropriate to file this because we do not believe, and that it has been sufficiently pled on its face, that the facts are supported or that the statutory requirements have been met in the motion itself, or that there can be any evidence to back up that motion for itself. We did ask for an evidentiary hearing in our various pleadings because at that time, the court had already entered the order for grandparenting time, and we believed that the court could not do so without having a hearing regarding the rebuttal of the presumption or the best interest of the child, and I believe the Court of Appeals agreed. So that's why we're not going like back and forth and asking for two separate things. We're saying now the grandparenting time order was entered. That was not correct. We needed to have a hearing if it was going to be the case, but we're now saying they don't even pass step 1 to get the motion to that point of having to be able to present evidence of the best interest of the child, because that's what the statute requires. First, it has to be the rebuttal of the presumption that Ari's decision creates a substantial risk of harm, and then we get into the best interest factors, and their motion falls flat on its face. So we're requesting that this be denied. If the court would not deny their motion outright, we are requesting that the hearing be bifurcated to follow the statutory requirement that first they must rebut that presumption, and then we get into the best interest factors. And it does not, like, Mr. Bartell says it's not interrelated. The statute's pretty clear that first they have to rebut the presumption before they can go any further.
Okay. Mr. Bartell?
Well, I mean, let me start off. There was a lot of facts presented by the other side that clearly warrants this hearing, Your Honor. I mean, when we have plaintiff's counsel just making all these allegations, it's clear that's what she is relying on. The interesting thing here, Your Honor, is, and I did point out, there was it was about 11 or 12 page motion for summary disposition filed in the afternoon after they filed an ex parte motion to adjourn out a hearing, claiming there was trial by ambush, claiming we didn't follow the court rules, but we did, by not having to provide, and I don't have to go through all that, but obviously inaccurately giving this court information as to the law, not candor to the court. And then all of a sudden, the third motion of the week, because the next day after the motion for summary disposition, they file a motion for counseling. It's quite suspect, Your Honor. It became abundantly clear that's what they wanted. But first, their motion for summary judgment is actually really a motion for reconsideration. I say that because they're making exactly the same arguments, Your Honor, as they made in their initial answer to this court. This court already made its determination. There was sufficient evidence to proceed forward to an evidentiary hearing in this matter. But even more importantly, and isn't even addressed by plaintiff in oral argument, is that they requested not just to have an evidentiary hearing with the Court of Appeals. They actually requested multiple things. So now to couch it in the terms of, well, we asked for an evidentiary hearing only because there was a temporary order entered, that makes no sense. Further, the Court of Appeals in its order ordered, Your Honor, there to be an evidentiary hearing. And plaintiff fails to present that or address that with the court. It is very clear that this was an improper motion. If we want to talk about unnecessary delay, if we want to talk about unnecessary cost, perhaps plaintiff and his counsel need to kind of look at all their filings, in which there was, I think, 5 filings within a 2-week period, and further that they're not even following and cherry picking what they want to see, but they're not even following the Court of Appeals directive. Okay? The Court of Appeals overturning this court on the temporary basis has nothing to do with an evidentiary hearing, and actually has nothing to do with the long-term potential order of this court. And to try to mix those two issues together is sloppy at best. So, Your Honor, we have to follow the Court of Appeals. Okay? And it said to go have the evidentiary hearing. And in fact,
Aaron, we lost Judge.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh,
Sorry, yeah.
Do you know-
have to.
do you recall when?
Say what?
Do you recall when in my argument?
Maybe the last 30 seconds or 20 seconds. Let me turn on the ring. I lost.
A few minutes later.
You out, Mr. Bartell, so you can, I guess, restart from where you lost me.
Unfortunately, I don't know where I lost you, Your Honor. So I will try the best where I think I left off. But
Okay.
The long and short of it still, Your Honor, is that the Court of Appeals made a determination in its order. It was a short order, but it actually indicated to actually have the evidentiary hearing. Okay. And plaintiffs don't address that. They clearly don't dispute it. Otherwise, they would have addressed it. And that is why I'm actually asking Your Honor, at a minimum, I mean, I think costs are really warranted here. That is a prime example of a frivolous filing in a court where you already made the determination. Okay. The Court of Appeals had all that information in front of it. And the only thing the Court of Appeals did was just disagreed with your decision on a temporary basis. And further, the order said that go have the evidentiary. I mean, it couldn't be much more clear. You're going to have an evidentiary here. They actually said that. And yet we have Ms. Reed, and I should say the plaintiff, filing this motion that we have to answer, Your Honor. That is frivolous, okay? If that's not frivolous, I don't know what is, because you already had 2 orders. And if they were going to file a motion for reconsideration, they should have followed the court rules, which would have been within 21 days of the order being entered, and they didn't do so. So they're actually coming back still and arguing all the exact same things. I do want to make note of one other thing. I keep hearing about now it's about a year. The months keep on, 1 week turns into 2 months for them. It has not been a year. But regardless, MCL 722.27B1F provides that grandparents can even petition in the year preceding the commencement of an action under subsection 3 for grandparenting time. If the grandparent provided an established custodial environment for the child, whether or not the grandparent had custody under a court order. We had alleged in our motion that there was continuous and constant contact. It wasn't sporadic. It wasn't just a day here or there. It was on a routine, weekly basis that my clients saw this child and that they had this close bonded connection. That was established. So every time I hear plaintiff keeps saying about this whole period of time, the legislature clearly understood when it enacted these statutes that there may be a time period in between. And furthermore, if plaintiff would have looked at some cases out there, there are times in which there was a significant gap, not just a month or two, okay? Furthermore, there have been cases out there in which evidentiary hearings were held over a 3-4 day period, over a long period of time, in which the grandparents had not seen the minor child, and yet the trial court gave grandparenting time, and further, the Court of Appeals has affirmed such decisions. So this whole hasn't seen the child, all this stuff, so they don't know schoolwork and all this other stuff. That is not the law. I would submit to the court based upon the decisions out there. To circle back, I really do think sanctions are appropriate, Your Honor. I really do. We had to waste time to answer a motion that was clearly decided 2 times, filed on the same day after they wanted the evidentiary hearing adjourned for their benefit. There's no trial by ambush just because we filed the court orders as to whether or not there's trial, witness lists or exhibits, etc. We filed the court rules except for that one subpoena that got out late, providing to opposing counsel. We filed the court rules in terms of providing the information as required by the court rules. So I would ask for sanctions, attorney's fees and costs, and having to answer this frivolous motion. The second part, Your Honor, is the bifurcation issue. That is hard, as I indicated, to try to bifurcate the best interest factors with the rebuttable presumption that there's a substantial risk of harm to the minor child's mental, psychological, or physical well-being is hard to parse through. Further, as I had noted before, and counsel was agreeable that Dr. Haugen can testify on the, I think it's October 1st date, he is part of that rebutting of the presumption, notwithstanding the presentation by plaintiff that he has nothing to add because he's never seen the child. Once again, there are plenty of court appeals decisions where they have psychologists, not a social worker, testify as to generalities in which trial courts have, our trial court can actually take that testimony as information with regards to the particular matter. So I would ask for us just to proceed forward and present our case with all the witnesses. This court has the ability to parse through all of that information and issue the decision that this court deems reasonable.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reed, anything else?
Disagree that this is a frivolous motion or that it was filed frivolously. We follow the court rules regarding motions for summary disposition. This is not a motion for reconsideration. It's basically on the motion itself fails to plead sufficient facts.
Okay.
And so it should be dismissed outright. And the Court of Appeals specifically found that the record does not meet their requirements either for a temporary order. So we're asking again for it to be dismissed.
Okay, thank you. Well, the court notes that this motion is filed under 2.116 paren C paren H, stating that the opposing party has failed to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. In this case, as the attorneys know, that a C8 motion tests the legal sufficiency of the claim based on the factual allegations in the complaint. The trial court must accept all factual allegations as true in deciding the motion on the pleadings alone. And a C8 motion may only be granted when the claim is so clearly unenforceable that no factual development possibly justify the recovery. I would take umbrage with Ms. Reed's rendition of the Court of Appeals decision, as the Court of Appeals in this particular matter stated that on the temporary basis that the court had not considered the fit parent presumption, not that it didn't exist or that it had some way was not able to be established in this particular matter. So notwithstanding the court having taken that into consideration, the court unfortunately didn't mention the magic words when I made my ruling, and therefore the Court of Appeals again, I guess, inferred or presumed that it had not been considered. In this particular matter, when the court does look at the motion for grandparenting time and looks at those allegations, the interveners had substantial paragraphs addressing the contact with the child and how substantial it is. Now, looking at specifically, court looks at paragraph 27. Paragraph 27 says that on March 1, 2021, plaintiff father's wife showed up at the petitioner's doorstep with Chloe, and she told petitioners that plaintiff father and his wife would let petitioner see Chloe since it was extremely important for Chloe's mental health for such connection to remain. Further, it's stated in the complaint that, again, at that point when the intervener was watching Chloe, that she, in fact, quit her job so that she could do that. And paragraph 42 says, even some of plaintiff father's own family believes it would be in the best interest of Chloe for the maternal grandparents to have parenting time with Chloe, and that to order otherwise would be detrimental to the minor child. Then the intervener, Carlina Torlido, said in paragraph 9 of her affidavit, which was in support of her motion, says to not let grandparenting time would be to the detriment of Chloe's mental, physical, and emotional health. Paragraph 10, she says, Chloe loves us, and my understanding is that she has been told that we do not love her. However, when Chloe was told recently that myself and my husband love and miss her, Chloe was excited in case she loves and misses us as well. Paragraph 11 of the affidavit says, I have heard from individuals that still see the father and Chloe that they have told me that Chloe is depressed and misses my husband and myself. Paragraph 14, when Chloe would go home from my residence, when I would not receive routine time with Chloe up until the end of December 2023, Chloe would be very depressed. However, Chloe would be so happy that she would come back to my residence. In this matter, the court, in a motion for summary disposition, has to look at the motion in the context that the court will look at it and give the benefit in the motions to the non-moving party. And when I do that in context of the recitation that I just did, as well as looking at the entire motion and the affidavit in this matter, the court does not believe that, as asserted by plaintiff, that the interveners have failed to set forth a valid claim in this matter. The court will deny the motion for summary disposition. With that, Mr. Bartel, do you wish to make an opening statement, reserve your opening statement, or and proceed with proofs?
Just a real brief one, Your Honor. In this manner, I think the proofs are going to show that there has been significant contacts with the grandparents. I think the proofs will also show that there has been kind of a up and down relationship, so to speak, between plaintiff, his current wife, Kelsey Cronkite, and the grandparents, maternal grandparents. Our position is that this rockiness is not from the grandparents. The grandparents actually, believe it or not, care for plaintiff still after all this. And they want nothing but everyone to come together. They actually think it'd be in the best interest of this child to not, unfortunately, always be put in the middle. And I think the history will also show, if we're going to go back, that plaintiff father, whether that's him, whether or not he is being, I don't want to say controlled, but our fear is that his wife controls everything that's going on, is that we're put in this situation where the minor child has been put in the middle and used as a pawn. Unfortunately, there have been times where plaintiff has allowed the grandparents to see the minor child, and then he would yank them away. But I would submit, I think the proofs are going to show, as of most recent, up until the time, which is about the beginning of December of 2023, that plaintiff took the minor child from the grandparents and would not let them see the minor child anymore. Okay. And the proofs are going to show that the plaintiff has taken significant steps, including making unilateral decisions when there's joint legal custody, I think, to better his position. Unfortunately, what we're here still on is Chloe, what's in her best interests. I think the proofs are going to show that the grandparents aren't here to take away the minor child from plaintiff whatsoever. It's just that they had extensive ties to this minor child since the child was born. And those ties, I think, should continue based upon the proofs that are going to be presented, including the testimony that you'll hear from Dr. Haugen, who's a psychologist, that he'll be able to walk the court through as to the harms to the minor child since there has been a cutoff of communication, contact, not only actually with the grandparents, but also with the mother, Taylor Morgan, because plaintiff does not allow the minor child to engage by phone or otherwise with Taylor Morgan. So this is where we're at, Your Honors. There's been a total cutoff of the minor child being able to see, have communication with her mother, grandparents, and everyone on that side of the family. And I think the proofs will show there is a substantial risk of harm to the minor child's emotional, psychological, well-being in this matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reed, do you wish to make an opening statement, reserve your opening statement, or waive your opening statement?
I'm just going to rely on our motion for summary disposition as it restates our position, and that we believe that the testimony will not show any substantial risk of harm to this child, that she has not been harmed in any way. There's no risk of harm. Any harm that has occurred is as a result of the grandparents' own actions in false information that they're telling this child about their father, and that is the reason why grandparenting time is being denied, and that it would be a risk of harm to a harm to this child to force her to go for grandparenting time and do something that she does not want to do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Bartel, you can call your first witness.
I would call Kelsey Cronkite.
Okay.
One moment, let me get her here.
Okay. Good morning, Ms. Concrete. We're going to take some testimony from you, so we'll have to have you raise your right hand, be sworn in, and then we'll proceed.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Bartel.
Yes, can you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
Kelsey Lynn Cronkite, Cronkhite.
Okay. And where do you live right now? What city was that you said?
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
And how long have you been living there?
Since this last Thursday.
And who lives with you?
My husband, Ori Cronkite, and our 3 children, Chloe Cronkite, Uriah Cronkite, and Giovanni Cronkite.
Now, when you say your 3 children, you admit Chloe Cronkite.
My stepdaughter, yes, sir.
Okay. And how old is Chloe?
She's 6 years old.
And when's her date of birth? And what grade is she in school?
1st grade.
And where is she going to school? And when was she enrolled?
Before school started in the beginning of August.
Okay, so just recently.
Yes, because we just recently moved here and bought this home, sir.
And when did you and Mr. Cronkite get together?
We got together in July of 2019.
And when did you marry?
December 6th of 2019.
And do you know Carlina Toledo and Jamie Morgan?
Yes, I do.
And how do you know them?
They are Chloe's maternal grandparents.
And do you know Taylor Morgan?
Yes, I do.
And how do you know Taylor Morgan?
Because she's Chloe's mother.
Okay. And when is the last time you've had any communication with Carlina and Jamie Morgan?
The day after Thanksgiving. So November of 2023, the end of November.
And when is the last time you had any communication with Taylor Morgan?
When we took kids on spring break to Tampa, Florida. And Chloe and I and Ori and Taylor had a phone call on the beach. I do believe it was March 5th.
Of this year?
Yes, sir.
And would you have routine contact with Taylor Morgan over the last few years?
Periodically.
And with regards to, would you admit that before December 2023, that Carlina and Jamie Morgan had significant contacts with Chloe?
No, sir.
Okay.
They had occasional contact.
I'm sorry?
Occasional contact.
So what is occasional contact to you?
They had Chloe on when she started school. They got to see her on Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
And that is the only time.
They would call sometimes and ask for her to spend the night sometimes, and she would spend the night. Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to 2023. Approximately how many overnights would you say that Chloe had with Carlina and Jamie?
As I stated before, once Chloe started school, she had no overnights with Jamie and Carlina unless they asked for her to spend the night specifically because she started school. So school started in last year in 2023. It started in the end of August, I believe. So from August, September, October, November. So for the last 4 months of the relationship they shared, they only seen Chloe on Wednesday from 4 to 8, unless they contacted Ori or myself and asked for an overnight visit.
Thank you for the answer. My question was in 2023, how many overnights approximately did they have with Chloe?
I maybe a couple. It was sparingly.
How about 2022? How many overnights would you approximate that the grandparents had with Chloe?
In 2022, probably 1 to 2 nights a week.
And was that for the whole year?
There were times where Carlina Toledo would threaten us with you, and say that if we didn't allow Chloe to stay longer, that she would take us to court because she didn't agree with us not letting her keep Chloe for longer than what we thought was okay.
So how did that answer my question of 1 to 2 times a week? I'm just asking how many times.
1 to 2 times a week.
What is your background education?
I have a high school diploma and I have some college experience.
Okay. And I just want to make sure you have no hearing issues, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so in 2022, there'd be on average 1 to 2 overnights per week, correct?
Correct, sir.
And what you're saying is that there was less contact in 2023 with regards to overnights, correct?
Correct.
And you're saying it was more of a once per week, 4 to 8 p.m. on Wednesdays, if I understand, correct? Did there come a time that you were mad at Carlina for taking Chloe shopping too often?
I'm going to object to relevance.
Mr. Barker.
Well, it's just going into the part of the whole background for this court as to the deterioration of the relationship. And I think also the control of the stepmother in this matter.
Okay. Well, it may be a little bit attenuated, but the court will allow it. Go ahead. Why don't you
Can you
ask
repeat the
again, Mr.
question,
Martell?
sir?
Okay. Did there come a point where you got mad at Carlina for taking Chloe shopping too often?
I was never mad at Carlina, but I did ask her to stop taking Chloe shopping so close to Christmas. Yes, sir.
Well, isn't it true you thought that she was just buying too much stuff for Chloe?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that you kind of got heated in some text messages to her telling her not to do that?
No, I asked her respectfully, sir.
Okay. Isn't it true that you also got mad at her because she took Chloe to Chuck E. Cheese too much?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Isn't it true that you just thought that they bought a bunch of stuff for Chloe and you just didn't want that, correct?
I'm gonna
No,
object
sir.
again, Your Honor. I don't see how this is relevant to grandparenting time today.
It is.
Well, Your Honor, this is part of the whole thing. I think it is relevant for the court to understand as to the prior relationship between the respective parties, to the breakdown of the relationship. I mean, you can't just jump in and have a psychologist say, here's the detriment to a child if you don't have this connection, and here's the context. I think you have to have the whole context here.
Okay. Well, what the court's going to do, the court will allow the question because obviously the court does need to know the environment and gets to know what the contact was and all of that background to again address the best interest if we get to that point. So I am going to allow it. Go ahead.
All right. Isn't it true that you were not happy with Carlina, that you thought she was just buying her too much stuff?
I guess so.
Yeah. And I guess I want to back up. Wasn't there a time in which would you admit that there was kind of a rocky up and down relationship between you and Carlina?
Yes.
And would you admit that there was periods of time that you had previously withheld Chloe from her grandparents prior to November or December of 2023?
I'm not Chloe's mother, so I'm not the one that makes those decisions, sir.
Okay. But you're not the mother, but you would voice displeasure in other subjects to Carlina, correct?
I don't understand the question.
So you pick and choose which areas you are going to be the mother or not the mother of Chloe and voice displeasure to Chloe or to Carlina?
No, sir. My daughter has a father. His name is Ori Cronkite, and he makes the decisions for her. I would always communicate with my husband before making any decisions about what I was doing with Jamie or Carlina Toledo.
So why were you having those communications then with Carlina and not the father of the child?
Because we were women and we were getting along at that point in time. We had a friendship.
But you agree those were duties for the parent to address, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree that Carlina and Jamie have provided significant sums of money to you and Ori in support of Chloe?
No, I don't agree with that whatsoever at all.
Would you agree that they gave you guys money, period, in support of Chloe? Okay.
No, they never gave us money.
Okay. Would you agree that Jamie and Carlina would purchase items for Chloe?
Yeah, they purchased items for Chloe like school clothes when Chloe's mother, Taylor, wasn't there and able to do so.
So anything else beyond school clothes that they would purchase?
She bought her some Claritin.
Isn't it true that you would be texting Carlina saying we need new snow pants for Chloe?
Yeah, I did ask her to get Chloe a pair of snow pants. Yes,
And
I
isn't
did.
it true you would say, hey, why don't you just have your mom? She's got Kohl's cash and she can go pick up some stuff for Chloe.
Mr. Bartell, that's the relationship we shared at that point in time.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that she answer the question rather than be combative to me.
Ma'am, just to answer the question, he's asked if you did that. You don't need to give basically.
Can you re-ask the question, sir?
Isn't it true that you had asked or told Carlina just to have her mother, Gloria, to use her Kohl's cash to buy clothes for Chloe?
I don't remember doing that. No, sir.
Isn't it true that Carlina would bring medicine over when the children were sick, including your own children?
I just told you she brought Chloe some Claritin.
But isn't it true that there were times when Chloe had the flu or was really sick in which she would purchase medicine or food for you guys and Chloe?
No, sir, that's incorrect.
So she didn't bring over Pedialyte and chicken noodle soup like in your text message to Carlina?
For Chloe, not for my children.
Isn't it true that there had been at least on one occasion, if not more, that you would ask Carlina and Jamie to take Chloe because Chloe was sick?
No, sir, that's not true.
And you never at any point texted Carlina that?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. And you realize you're under oath here today?
Yes, sir. I do not remember ever texting Carlina and asking her to take Chloe because she was sick. I do not recall.
Did you ever ask Carlina to take Chloe because you or Ori were sick?
Yeah, that's a very good possibility.
So let me ask you, on your side of the family, when I say your side, let me define that. I'm talking about your grandparents, your parents, siblings, and Ori's as well.
Yes, sir.
Are there people on your side of the family that routinely see Chloe?
Yes, sir.
About how many?
Everyone.
Yeah, but how many?
We have at least 4 sets of grandparents, numerous cousins, numerous aunts and uncles.
And at any time, would you have Chloe spend the night with any of them over the last 2 or 3 years?
Occasionally, yes.
Let me ask it differently. Are they more than willing to take Chloe in times of need?
My family members?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Isn't it true that you used to appreciate Carlina?
One time, yes.
And isn't it true that you had showed up at her house or in another mode of communication, told her that it would be in the best interest for Chloe to have contact with her and Jamie?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And that was back in March of what year?
I don't have a very good memory, so I apologize. But
I mean, if it was in 2022, would it be around 2022?
no, it was probably 2021.
And You don't lie, correct?
Correct.
Isn't it true? I want to get back that Carlina gave money to purchase photographs of Chloe.
Yes, sir, but the photographs were for herself and for her family.
And you agree, you guys would be in contact on a routine basis in 2022 and most of 2023?
Can you ask that question again, sir?
Isn't it true that you and Carlina were in, I say constant, but frequent contact with Carlina in 2022 and 2023?
Partially in 2023, and also partially in 2022.
And wasn't most of everything? I'm sorry?
I just said it wasn't ever steady.
And isn't it true that most of your communication was concerning Chloe
Yes.
and concerning how she was doing and what was going on in school?
There was only 4 months where we would have talked about school.
Okay. During that 4-month period, did you talk about school with Carlina?
Occasionally, yeah.
Okay. But prior to that school 4-month period, you would be talking though about Chloe and what was going on with Chloe and what's going on in her life and how she was doing, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you don't deny that obviously Carlina had an interest in Chloe and a connection there on that level.
No, I don't deny that.
So when is it your understanding that Miss Morgan has started her incarceration? And I mean jail and prison.
It was July of 2022 or June of 2022.
Okay. So is it fair to say about a year and a half she was in jail or prison prior to the maternal grandparents from just being able to see Chloe anymore?
I don't understand the question.
It was about a year and a half period that she was incarcerated while Carlina and Jamie were having contact with Chloe.
I guess. I said it was
And
June of 2022.
yeah. So how often would you be in contact with Taylor Morgan between June of 22 into the present?
My husband contacted her. He wrote her a letter in prison and had her call him. And that's when we started talking to Taylor. I think it was right before Christmas December of 2023.
So isn't it true that you did talk to Taylor Morgan for about a 2-month period in December and January of 2023 into 2024?
Yes, sir.
And is it fair to say that after about end of January, beginning of February, you had only that one more contact with Taylor on March 5th when you were in Florida?
No, sir. We had contact all the way up until when we were in Florida on spring break.
Okay, so you haven't had any contact with her since March 5th?
No, she just stopped calling and stopped talking to us. She stopped writing us. She stopped sending letters to Chloe. She quit calling both of our phones.
So how often were you sending letters to Taylor?
I sent her like 6 or 7 letters, and I sent her some pictures of Chloe.
And that was all during that December, January, February period?
December, January, February, and March. Yes, sir.
But you have not sent anything since March of 2024?
I don't believe so. I would have to double check and look and see.
Isn't it true during that time period that you did have communication with Miss Morgan, that you were trying to convince her to sign off on her legal custody rights?
No, sir. I do not recollect that.
You never did.
No, sir.
Isn't it true that when you were having conversations, at least on one occasion, with Taylor Morgan, you were telling Chloe to tell Taylor Morgan that Carlina was telling Chloe that Ori is
I'm
not
gonna
her
object, Your
father?
Honor. There's a whole lot of hearsay in that.
That's not hearsay. That's coming from the source.
So
That's not
what my
hearsay.
understanding of all of that was Kelsey's telling Chloe to tell Taylor something else that someone said.
Correct.
Yes. And that Taylor, don't speak. Your Honor, that's not hearsay. If I asked someone if they told someone to tell someone something, it was convoluted from the standpoint of having someone tell someone to tell someone, but it's not hearsay because she's telling the person to say it. That was the question.
Okay, well, clarify the question because it was a little bit confusing, Mr. Bartel.
Yeah, and I don't know how to clarify it up more, but I'll do my best, Your Honor.
Okay.
Is it not true that at least on one occasion that you told Chloe, so this is a statement that you told to Chloe, to tell her mother, Taylor, that Taylor's mother was saying that Ori is not Chloe's father?
That is not true. No.
Isn't it true you told Chloe to say that at least 4 or 5 times when Chloe was on the phone with Taylor?
No, sir. That's not true.
Isn't it true that you had told Carlina Toledo that at the end of November or the beginning of December of 2023 that you guys needed to sit down?
Was that the end of your question?
Yes.
That we need to sit down?
You needed to have a sit down.
I asked her probably in the beginning of November.
Isn't it true that you brought up the fact that you wanted Taylor to sign off on legal custody?
No, sir.
Isn't it true that you indicated that you were dealing with a State Farm insurance proceeds issue and that in order to get it, you had to have Taylor sign off on her legal rights?
No, sir. That's incorrect.
Isn't it true you got mad at Carlina and said you are choosing your own daughter over Chloe?
I don't recall.
Didn't you tell her that she needed to quit hiring attorneys and have Taylor go away?
No, I did not.
And when Carlina said no, you said, quote, "You must not love your granddaughter that much and do not have the respect for the woman in Ori's life."
I do not believe that's how the conversation went.
Isn't it true that you would drop off Chloe at Carlina's house?
Sometimes, yes.
Well, when you say sometimes, isn't it true your husband Ori works?
Pardon me?
Isn't it true your husband Ori works
Yes, he works.
and he works full time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And isn't it true that you were the predominant one to drop off Chloe at Carlina and Jamie's residence?
Yes, sir.
And weren't you the one that predominantly picked up Chloe from their residence as well?
No, not all the time.
I didn't say all the time, predominantly, majority of the time.
No, probably about 50-50.
So 50-50 pick up and mostly drop off is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Carlina would drop Chloe back off at home sometimes.
Okay. So you'd still have arrangements with Carlina to do that.
Correct.
Wasn't there a time in 2023 that you went into, well, let me back up actually. Did Chloe have her own bedroom to your knowledge at Carlina and Jamie's?
Yes, but Carlina slept in the bedroom.
So my question was that, so she had her own bedroom, correct?
Yes, but it was like hers and Carlina's bedroom.
So did Chloe have her own bed there?
Yes, with Carlina.
Did she have pictures up in her room?
Yes, some pictures.
Did she have her own toys in the room?
Yes, sir.
Did she have clothes in her room?
Yes, sir.
And how many clothes would you approximate?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
I mean, did she have sufficient clothes to spend a number of days there?
Yes, she did.
Did she have too many clothes in your estimation?
No, sir.
And isn't it true that at one point you told Carlina to take down all the pictures of Taylor in Chloe's room?
I told her that it might be making her sad. Yes.
And so you told her to take down the pictures.
I don't think I asked her to take them down, but I did mention that it was making Chloe sad.
In fact, didn't you tell her you need to take them down if you want Chloe to come over for the weekends?
No, that's not true, sir.
Isn't it true that you would tell Carlina that you did not want Chloe to talk to Taylor?
No, sir, that's not true. I always encourage the relationship between Chloe and Taylor.
And what have you done since March of 2024 to encourage that relationship?
I have done nothing but wonder why the communication stopped, sir.
So you have nothing but wonder. You never wrote anything to Taylor?
No, I have not wrote her. I have a job now and I have no more storage on my phone to download any more apps.
So but you physically haven't wrote a letter?
No, sir.
And have you sent anything from Chloe to Taylor since March of this year?
As I stated previously, I would have to double check, but I do not believe so. I do believe the last thing I sent Taylor was a couple pictures of us from spring break.
Isn't it true that there was a time that you walked into Chloe's bedroom at Carlina and Jamie's and got mad when you saw Chloe take pictures out of her baby album and line them up of Taylor?
No, sir.
So prior to Taylor Morgan going to jail, isn't it true that you predominantly would drop off Chloe at Carlina and Jamie's?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Isn't it true that when Taylor was not incarcerated, she was living with her mother and dad?
Yes, I believe that's true.
Well, is it your understanding that there was a prior court order that Taylor was to have supervised parenting time at one point by her parents?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And even beyond any supervised parenting time, would you admit that when Taylor has not been incarcerated, that she had been living with her parents?
It's to my understanding that Taylor's always lived with her parents, sir.
Yes. So whenever Taylor would be exercising her parenting time, or it was her time with Chloe, Chloe was over at Jamie and Carlina's, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's been for many years, correct?
Chloe lived with Ori and Taylor the first year she was born, and then she lived with Jamie and Carlina. I apologize. I'm just looking for my phone charger.
Have you ever threatened Chloe that you would break her arm?
No, sir. Never.
Did you ever tell Chloe that Taylor Morgan is not coming home for a long time?
No, sir.
Isn't it true that you have told Chloe that her mother is worthless?
No, sir. That is not true.
Isn't it true you would tell Chloe that Carlina is telling people that Ori is not Chloe's daughter?
Can you repeat the question, sir?
Isn't it true that you have told Chloe that Carlina is telling people that Ori is not Chloe's father?
Yes, I've told a few members of my family what's going on.
No, have you told Chloe?
Oh, no, sir. No.
Isn't it true you have told Carlina that you beat Chloe's ass because she would not go and play with the other children?
No, sir. That is not true.
Isn't it true Carlina responded that you should have put her in timeout, and your response was that that's not how we do things around here?
No, sir. I do not believe that that is true whatsoever.
So I'm going to go back to about March of 2022. Isn't it true that you got into a significant car accident?
I'm going to object, Your Honor, of how that's relevant.
Yeah, Mr. Bartel, how is that relevant?
Well, it's as to as a proffer of proof that they reached out to my clients to come pick up the child, Your Honor, and to take the child and care for the child because that child was in that accident. It further goes to the dynamics here that she has pled to a felony. She endangered the children, and with regards to even this specific child.
Okay. Well, I will allow it to the extent that it's relevant to this case and to Chloe.
Okay, can you re-ask the question, sir?
Yes. Isn't it true in March of 2022 you got into a significant car accident?
That is true.
And you had pled no contest to assault causing great bodily harm less than murder?
No, sir. I pled no contest to attempt to do great bodily harm / less than murder.
And that is a felony?
That is a 5-year felony, yes.
Okay, that was reduced from a charge of driving under the influence causing death, correct?
I'm gonna object
I
of
don't
how this is
understand.
relevant to Chloe.
Well, if I'll allow it if Mr. Bartel can tie it up that it's some way relevant.
Well, Your Honor, I get it. The other side doesn't want any background information to come in, and I leave it to this court to direct me. But this court needs to have some of this background. I can't just jump into everything as to one particular question, because that would be a lack of foundation.
Well, tie it up. Maybe if you asked if the child was present when that happened, that obviously that would be relevant.
I will. So in this accident, was Chloe present?
Yes, sir, she was.
She was in the vehicle
Yes, sir.
and she got injured?
No, sir. She had bruising from her seatbelt.
So she got injured.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, you're trying to minimize it, correct?
Pardon me?
Otherwise, you're minimizing it, aren't you?
She had bruising on her neck from her seatbelt, sir.
She went to the hospital. Is that not correct?
Yes, everyone went to the hospital, sir.
And I don't mean to disturb this situation or be insensitive, but there was a minor child that died, correct?
My son, Julian Mansfield. Yes, sir.
And he was not wearing a seatbelt, correct?
That is correct.
And he was in the front seat right next to you, correct?
Correct.
And Chloe was the only one that was wearing a seatbelt, correct?
Chloe and Giovanni were the only ones that did not unbuckle because we were almost home. That is correct.
Isn't this the same day? Let me ask you, why were you going home?
I'm gonna object how this is relevant. This is not trial 2.0 of Kelsey Cronkite. It needs to be relevant to Chloe. I don't see how the circumstances surrounding this accident are relevant.
Well, it's involving the minor child who got into an accident, Your Honor, that had significant bruising, had to go to a hospital, and I am going to get to the point where the grandparents were called. So all this is relevant, Your Honor.
Well, I'll allow it to some extent. There was a case called In Re Taurus X, which is an older case. But in that case, they said how one parent treats a child, a particular child, is indicative of how they may treat the other child. So I'll allow it to that extent. Re-ask the question, Mr. Bartel.
Okay. So let me actually back up. So at some point, did you or someone call Carlina and or Jamie Toledo to come pick up Chloe?
My husband was with Jamie. So when my husband was notified of the accident, Jamie was also notified of the accident because Ori and Jamie were together. So Jamie probably called Carlina.
So isn't it true, though, Jamie and Carlina are the ones that took Chloe to the hospital?
Yes, because I was in the ICU and one of my children passed away. And my 4-year-old son was also in the PICU in Kalamazoo. And Ori needed them to make sure Chloe was okay.
Okay, so people were in ICUs. That was a pretty significant car accident, not just a fender bender.
Yes, sir.
And that was a one-car accident, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you hit a tree, correct?
Yes, sir, after I was knocked unconscious.
And there was no icy road conditions, correct?
It was sprinkling, but it was not icy, no, sir.
And now let me come back. So what was the reason for you going home? Where were you?
I'm going to object again, Your Honor. This isn't relevant.
Yeah,
why she was going home.
Irrelevant where she was going.
Because I want to get to the point she was actually coming from Jamie and Carlina's, actually, where she didn't drop the child off, where she actually got mad at Carlina because Taylor wasn't home at 5:30 rather than the 6 o'clock time period and was being childish.
Okay, well, ask her that question rather than some other nebulous question that may not be relevant.
Isn't it true that you were coming from Jamie and Carlina's residence?
Yes, that's true.
Isn't it true that you were there originally to drop off Chloe at 5:30?
That's when Chloe was supposed to be dropped off. Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that Taylor was not there even though the time is 6 p.m. for the drop-off?
Yes, it was supposed to be 6.
And isn't it true that you said, well, if she's not here, I'm not leaving Chloe for her parenting time?
Ori wanted Chloe to be with her mother.
That's not my
for her
question.
parenting time.
Isn't it
What can you
true you
repeat your
said?
question, sir?
Isn't it true you said if Taylor's not here right now, I'm not leaving Chloe here?
Yeah, sounds like something I would say.
Isn't it true that you were told that she's going to be home shortly?
Yeah, Ori was going to come back to the house and pick her up and bring her back to Taylor. Correct. At 6 o'clock. And Taylor still never showed up.
I was there. My daughter came to me.
Hold
by
on,
accident.
hold on.
Taylor,
Miss Morgan, you cannot speak. You have an opportunity to speak when you testify. Don't interrupt and do not interject.
can I just ask that the court put Taylor on mute, baby?
Okay. We'll mute you at this point, Miss Morgan. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bartel.
And isn't it true Jamie and Carlina took Chloe for that weekend after being in the hospital?
I'm unaware, sir. You would have to ask my husband that. I was in the ICU.
Do you know who Stephanie Plain is?
She's my paternal grandmother.
Your paternal grandmother, okay. And when's the last time you had contact with her?
A few months ago when we got in an argument.
Okay. When you say a few months ago, like 2 months ago or?
I'm unaware, sir.
Okay. Isn't it true that you told Stephanie Plain in December of 2023 that Chloe was lying to you all the time?
There was a point where Chloe was lying a lot, yes.
No, the question was, and if the court could direct her, I get it. She wants to get her story in. I asked, did you tell
I just don't
Stephanie
understand.
Plain?
I'm sorry.
Well, you were actually testifying as if it was fact that Chloe was lying, and maybe she was or wasn't. My question was there a time in December of 2023 that you told Stephanie Plain that Chloe was lying to you all the time?
I don't recall, sir.
Isn't it true that Stephanie Plain has voiced her displeasure of you guys, you and Ori, not allowing contact between Carlina and Jamie and Chloe?
No, sir, that's incorrect.
And isn't it true that that you have called her a fucking cunt because she disagrees with your cutting
I'm
off
gonna
the
object
ties?
how my client or Miss Cronkite's relationship with Stephanie Plain is relevant to grandparenting time.
Okay. Mr. Bartel, how is it relevant?
Your Honor, it's relevant from the standpoint as to the connection of, and I'm trying to establish some stuff for impeachable stuff in the future with Stephanie Plain, but Stephanie Plain has some information as to the connection to Chloe and Chloe to this particular witness and Jamie and Carlina.
Well, I'll allow it for the limited purposes of potential impeachment or credibility, but it's maybe, again, it's tenuous as to how it relates other than that.
Isn't it true that Miss Plain had come to Chloe's birthday party this last year and you made her leave?
That is correct.
And isn't it true because you made her leave because she doesn't agree with your stance with regards to the contact between Chloe and Jamie and Carlina?
No, sir, that's not true. That's not why I made my grandmother leave my property.
Isn't it true that you told her you have nothing to talk to her ever again unless she can realize that the accident that include Chloe was not your fault?
No, that's not true.
Isn't it true you have cut her off from seeing Chloe or any of your children?
That is correct.
Isn't it true that you've cut Cindy and Don Plain off from Chloe or any of your children?
I'm gonna object
That
to
is
how
correct.
this is relevant to the grandparenting time issue.
Okay. How is it relevant, Mr. Bartel?
Well, Your Honor, I'll scratch that. I'll get into some other questions, then that could be the final one, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Do you know Cindy Plain?
She is my uncle's 7th wife. Yes.
Okay. And Don Plain, do you know him?
That would be my uncle.
And what's the importance of 7th wife?
He's been married 7 times. It's his 7th wife.
Okay.
That's how I know her.
And isn't it true you would take Chloe over to visit with her on routine basis for family dinners?
I'm gonna object how this is relevant to grandparenting time.
Okay. Mr. Bartel?
I mean, Your Honor, I can jump in.
As well.
I can jump into the statement she made. I'm just trying to lay the foundation as to where they were and the connection there, Your Honor.
And I still don't understand how her relationship with other family members is relevant to grandparenting time, or her statements to other family members is relevant to grandparenting time.
I don't know, perhaps maybe statements such as the grandparents are good people helping out with Chloe and stuff. But I got to establish a foundation. Unfortunately, counsel doesn't understand foundation.
Well, maybe ask her those questions, and if there's an objection to the foundation,
I guess from now on, I'm going to, Your Honor. I'm going to jump in and not do foundation.
Okay.
So isn't it true that you have indicated to Cindy and or Don Plain that Carlina and Jamie Morgan are great grandparent or good grandparents to Chloe?
I don't recall, sir. No.
You don't recall ever saying that?
I don't recall. No.
Isn't it true that you have acknowledged to them that they had a close relationship?
I don't recall. No.
Isn't it true that you acknowledge how happy Chloe was in the presence of Carlina and Jamie?
No, sir.
Isn't it true in front of them that you would make comments to Chloe that her mother would not be coming home from prison for a long time?
No, sir.
Isn't it true that you would disparage Taylor Morgan to Chloe in front of Cindy and Don Plain?
No, sir.
Isn't it true that actually, let's strike that. Isn't it true that you would text Cindy indicating that Don was responsible for Ori's drug addiction?
I'm gonna object of how that's relevant.
Okay. How is it relevant?
Well, if we're going to get into best interest factors, and as this court indicated as to things that affect the child, including whether it's drug abuse, whether it's car accidents, almost killing children, I think it is relevant.
Now, what's your response to that, Miss Reed?
I don't believe this third-party communication is relevant to the grandparent's claim of substantial risk of harm or the best interest factors.
Well, the best interest factors are pretty encompassing, so it does go to, again, the person's mental, physical health. So if we can tie that in, if there is in fact an issue of drug addiction, we can tie that up. The court would hold that it's relevant. So I'll let you get into that, Mr. Bartel. Again, subject to tying it up at later witness or evidence.
Isn't it true that you acknowledge in text and otherwise to Cindy Plain that your husband has a drug addiction?
About a year ago, there was an issue with my Uncle Don and Jamie Morgan giving my husband
No,
Vicodin.
that's not the question. Your Honor, she wants to get her story in. Can we direct again?
Yeah, ma'am.
I thought I was answering the question.
No,
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
he asked you a question whether your husband had a drug addiction. You don't need to go into a story about how it happened or how it arose. He just asked you that question.
Okay, can you repeat your question, Mr. Bartel?
Isn't it true that you admitted to Cindy Plain that your husband has a drug addiction?
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Had.
Isn't it true that he still uses drugs?
No, that's not true.
When's the last time, to your knowledge, he used drugs?
I'm not sure. When he stopped working for Mr. Morgan?
So about 9 months ago.
10 months ago, yeah, almost, yeah.
And what drug was he using?
Vicodin.
Isn't it true he used cocaine?
No, sir.
He's never used cocaine.
In the past. That was discussed at our last court date where we did this.
Well, thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Isn't it true that you had texted Cindy indicating that when you had the falling out, that Carlina and Jamie spoiled the children too much?
I don't recall, sir, no.
Isn't it true that Cindy Plain confronted you and told you about how she felt, how you were doing the wrong thing, taking Chloe away from her grandparents?
No, sir, I don't recall that either.
And do you still have contact with Cindy Plain?
No, sir.
And when's the last time you had contact with her?
Maybe 3-4 months ago.
And so you guys had a falling out as well.
Yes, sir.
And with Don Plain, when's the last time you had communication with him?
Probably about 6 months ago.
And is it true that you've had a falling out with him as well?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that you used to take Chloe over there for Sunday dinners or weekend dinners routinely?
I'm going to object. I don't see how that's relevant to grandparenting time.
How is it relevant, Mr. Bartel?
It shows you at least the contacts between these witnesses and whether or not she can verify or not, and therefore they have knowledge as to Chloe and things that were going on.
Well, I'll allow for that purpose only to establish that foundation and their ability to potentially testify if they are.
Yes. Isn't it true that they would routinely come over for or you would take Chloe and the other kids over to the Plains house for family dinners?
May I ask what routine is, Mr. Bartel?
On a pretty regular basis, at least once a month.
Once a month, maybe? Yeah.
So I asked you earlier about a statement that you told Carlina a few years ago. And you'd answer it, but this is an actual quote, I believe, from a text. Isn't it true you told Carlina that, quote, "We know that it's extremely important to her mental health to still have a relationship with you"?
Yes, sir. I sent that text.
And that was in reference to Chloe, correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bartel, if you would give me the quote again. I didn't get it all.
It was, "We know that it's extremely important to her mental health to still have a relationship with you."
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Would you admit that when you would drop off Chloe or pick her up at Jamie and Carlina's residence, that there were other family members on the other side of the family that you would see routinely over there?
Occasionally, I would see the great grandma.
Okay. No one else?
Not really, no.
Isn't it true that in about October or November of 2023, you had Carlina and Jamie take Chloe because you and your husband were having an extreme fight, or maybe even breaking up potentially?
Are you asking if that's true or not?
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
And so, do you recall how many days Jamie and Carlina took Chloe?
I do believe it was just for a day. Just for the day. I don't even think she spent the night, but it's been so long I don't recall.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Reed, do you wish to do any direct, or are you going to reserve and recall?
I'll do direct right now and maybe some cross, but Kelsey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, regarding this text message that you sent that says that you think it's extremely important to Chloe's or her mental health that they have a relationship, do you recall when you sent that?
It was the same time when I showed up at their doorstep with Chloe, for Chloe to see them. Those were the same things.
Okay. And was that a year or two ago?
I do believe Chloe was 3, getting ready to turn 4.
And do you still hold that belief today?
No, I do not.
And why not?
I'm going to
It's-
object to relevance as to an opinion of a stepmother, Your Honor. That's for the court to decide.
Well, I'll allow it. She can testify. She's testified to a lot of other things, so.
That's fine. I would only ask as long as there's no hearsay in that, because I have a feeling that's what's coming down the hatch.
Okay, well, you can object at that
Yep.
time.
I'm sorry, Miss Reed, could you please repeat yourself?
Why do you not believe that it's currently, or why do you not still hold the same belief that it's extremely important for the maternal grandparents to have contact for Chloe's mental well-being?
Why do I think it's not important? I guess I'm just not. Can you say it one more time?
So-
I'm sorry.
You sent a text message that said that you believe that it's extremely important for Chloe's mental well-being for her to see the maternal grandparents.
Yes, that's how I felt.
And you do not feel that way anymore.
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because of what has come out in counseling and the accusations that have been made against the grandparents. I don't think that that's in the best interest for my stepdaughter. And she's just doing so much better since not going there.
Can you explain what you mean by she's doing so much better since not going there?
She's just like opened up so much as a little girl. She used to never like sing to the radio or like sing the songs out loud or dance in front of everybody and now she's doing those things. She's not afraid to use her voice, and she's growing up and she's thriving. She's just amazing in all aspects. And we didn't see the improvement until she quit going to the residence of Jamie Morgan and Carlina Toledo.
Has she acted depressed in any way?
No, ma'am.
Has she been upset and crying?
No, ma'am.
Has she been locking herself in her room?
Absolutely not.
Has her behavior changed other than being more open and dancing and singing? Has her behavior changed in any way since she's been no longer seeing Carlina and Jamie Morgan?
I mean, like I said, she's just thriving. She's doing amazing in school. She's facing her fears and riding the rides at the fair that she, was scared to ride before. I don't know how to describe it. She's just so much brighter, just happier.
Okay. And then I'm going to go over in their motion for grandparenting time on paragraph 36. It says it should be noted that plaintiff father's wife became just mean toward petitioners in June 2023 after she was discharged from probation. It appears that she became brazen with no more legal oversight in her life. Are you still on probation?
On June 2nd, that's when I was put on probation.
This is June 2023, you were discharged.
No, ma'am.
You're still on probation?
Yes, ma'am. I am currently on probation. I've been on probation for about 12 months or longer, maybe 14 months now, through the Calhoun County court system.
Okay, and for the allegation that you just became mean towards petitioners in June of 2023, is that true?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, are you following all conditions of your probation?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Objection, relevance.
Well, I guess I'll allow it for what it's worth.
Okay, that's fine.
In paragraph 39 in their motion, it says plaintiff father's wife has a foul mouth, controls plaintiff father, is not a good role model for the minor children to be around. If anything, plaintiff father's wife should not be around the minor children anymore. So I'm going to break this down. Do you have a foul mouth?
I mean, anyone can have a foul mouth.
Do you swear around the children?
I try not to.
Okay. It says that you are not a good role model for the minor children to be around. Do you believe that's true?
I believe that I am a great role model for my children and my stepdaughter, Chloe.
Okay. And it says, if anything, plaintiff father's wife should not be around the minor child anymore. Do you believe that's in Chloe's best interest?
Objection to relevance.
These are their
my point is,
allegations,
Your Honor,
Rob.
I don't care if that really comes in, Your Honor, but I keep getting objections on the other side for other things that are way more relevant than whether or not the stepmother believes she should be.
I understand, but obviously if we get into the best interest, the court has to consider that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Do you believe it's in the best interest of Chloe that you not be around her anymore?
No.
And why is that?
I've been around Chloe since she was 18 months old. I've never left her. I've always been there with her. And I feel like I'm the only stable mother-like figure she's ever had in her life. And I think it would break her heart if she wasn't allowed to be around me anymore, because to her, I am her mommy Kelsey.
Have you ever had any CPS involvement?
No, ma'am.
Is there any domestic violence in your home?
Never.
Are there any verbal altercations in front of the children?
There was one time where Ori and I got into an argument, and I left and I took all of the children with me. And that was where Mr. Bartell asked me if I brought Chloe to Jamie and Carlina when Ori and I got into an argument. And I did that simply because the children didn't need to hear the argument. So the argument took place after the children were no longer in the home, ma'am.
Okay. And how do you discipline the kids in the house?
I put them in timeout.
And does Ari do the same?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was the last time you had contact with Carlina or Jamie?
The day after Thanksgiving. So
Okay.
I do believe it's probably like November 26th or 27th of 2023.
And was that in person or text message?
It was a text message.
Okay, but you haven't had any in-person contact with them since then?
With Carlina specifically?
Yes.
No, ma'am.
Oh,
I don't believe so.
okay. Just looking. And do you control Ari's actions?
No, ma'am.
Or phone calls with Taylor in prison, how are those arranged?
By my husband, Ori.
Is it set up that Taylor has to call Ori, or are you guys able to call into the prison to get Taylor?
No, we cannot call. My husband had to pay money, pay like $50 or $60 to set up a phone thing just so he could have contact with Miss Morgan.
So is it Miss Morgan that has to initiate that contact?
Correct.
Okay. Is it like a special system that you guys have to use?
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but yes, it is.
Okay. And there's no way that like you guys are going to be blocking her through that system?
I don't believe so. I never set up a phone for her. It was she could only call Ori's phone, now that I think about it.
Okay.
She could call my phone, but we couldn't ever talk because I never set up an account to talk to her. Because she was already communicating with Ori.
Okay.
But I did set up a JPay to write her letters. And she wrote me some letters.
And do you have to pay for JPay?
Yes, ma'am, I had to pay for it.
And how much is it?
I think it's so many dollars per letter you send. You have to buy so many stamps. You can buy like 20 stamps for $20 or something. And then every time you send one picture, you have to use one stamp. And every time you send a letter, you have to use one stamp. So every time I was communicating with her, I was paying for that out of my pocket to communicate with her.
Mm-hmm. I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Bartell, any recross?
Yeah, so you made reference to a counselor. as part of the reason why you do not believe Chloe should see the grandparents here. Did you initiate that contact with the counselor?
I don't understand the question, sir.
So did you initiate the contact to set up for Chloe to see this counselor?
My husband and I did that together, sir.
Okay, so how did you do that?
By contacting Grace Health.
Okay, by telephone, email?
Well, Ori had to go there in person.
Okay, so did you go with him in person?
The times he went to fill out the papers, no, I didn't go with him.
Okay, and how did you find this counselor?
It was about 3 months after my car accident, and I called Grace Health looking for mental health treatment and therapy because I had lost a child, and they placed me with this counselor, and she's been my counselor ever since.
So this is Allison Bartha,
That's correct, sir.
and so she is your counselor,
That is correct. She is my
And you-
therapist.
and you have been seeing her for almost, I don't know, just approximately a couple years now?
Probably like 2 years and 2 months.
And you've still seen this counselor?
Yes, sir. I talked to her. It's mandatory through my probation and through the Calhoun County Court that I remain my treatment with Miss Bartha for the length of my probation period.
Isn't it true that you have interacted with her outside the counseling sessions?
None of that is true, sir.
So you've never gone to have a drink with her or have dinner with her?
Absolutely not. That is
She's
not
never
true.
She's never been over to your house?
No, she has not.
You have not gone out on social settings with her?
No, sir.
And is she friends with people that are related to Mr. Cronkite?
She is friends with Mr. Cronkite being Ori, his brother's wife, and that is because they work together, I guess, at Grace Health.
And there's never been any interaction outside of the counseling session, you said, between you and,
No, sir,
and this
never.
counselor?
No, sir, never.
So it was your decision, though, to have Chloe see this particular counselor, correct?
It was the decision of Chloe's father, sir.
And you indicated that Chloe's doing much better now. She's singing, she's dancing, she's not depressed, all this stuff. I guess not locking herself in her bedroom.
Pardon me?
You had said Chloe's been doing much better. She's singing, dancing, not depressed, all this stuff since
Yes,
she's not seen the grandparents is your claim, correct?
That is correct, sir.
And when did she start being depressed and sad and everything?
I guess I don't understand. Can you reiterate?
Well, she's not depressed anymore. When did she start becoming depressed and sad?
She was upset and sad because she lost her mom, Taylor, and she lost her brother, Julian. And then right after she lost her brother, Julian, her mom went away too.
So you're saying she's been upset and sad since March of 22, correct?
Correct, sir. We all have suffered a tremendous loss.
So your claim is that she's always been sad and depressed for about a 20-month period before you sought counseling.
No, we went to see a counselor right after the accident, and the kids were too young. They just wouldn't open up to him. And they let us know that as long as the children are speaking to us about how they feel, that's what was most important. So we did seek counseling treatment beforehand as well.
What counselor was that?
I don't remember the gentleman's name, but it was an older gentleman also designated to us and Chloe and her brother Uriah through Grace Health, sir.
Did you speak to Taylor about putting Chloe into counseling that time with this gentleman?
No, sir, but I am not Chloe's mother, so I cannot put Chloe into counseling.
But to your knowledge, Ori did not speak with Taylor to put Chloe into that counseling, correct?
No, sir. As I stated before, Miss Morgan has to be the one to call us as she is in prison.
Well, so when did this counseling occur, I guess? That's the month and year.
May of 2022.
Okay. Okay. So you had earlier said that she was not incarcerated until June or July of 22, correct?
She was in jail first, and then she went to prison.
When did she go to
Sir,
jail?
I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact dates that Miss Morgan went to jail.
So even though you had put her into counseling at that time, as I understand it, you said she had always been kind of depressed and sad until this Allison Bartha, correct?
I don't agree. I don't feel like she was always depressed and sad. No, but she was sad and depressed from the loss of her brother and her mother. I guess I'm not understanding your question, sir.
I have no further questions, actually.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Reed, any further questions? Ms. Reed? Okay, so you have no additional redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. The next witness, Mr. Bartel?
I would call Taylor Morgan.
Okay.
What name did you mention there? You kind
Miss
of-
Morgan. Yeah, Taylor Morgan.
Sorry.
So we'll have to,
Taylor Morgan.
Oh,
we'll
okay.
have to unmute her.
Am I free to go or do I stay?
Yeah, no, ma'am, you are, that does conclude your testimony. You're free to go. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
She'll have to tap something on the tablet to unmute. I can
Okay.
only ask that she unmute, but I cannot unmute.
Miss Morgan, you're gonna have to have your, okay, you're unmuted apparently now. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Your Honor.
Okay, we can hear you now. So what we're gonna do, Miss Morgan, we're gonna have you sworn in, so raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bartel.
Thank you. Can you state your name for the record?
Taylor Renee Morgan, Morgan.
And do you know Chloe Cronkite?
I do. That is my daughter.
And when is the last time you've seen Chloe in person?
Since 2022.
Okay. Do you approximately know the month?
March.
And how old is Chloe right now?
She's 6 years old.
And when, let me back up. When she was born, were you with the father, Ori Cronkite?
I was.
Okay. And how long were you guys together?
Until my daughter was 19 months old.
Okay. And then after that, you guys had separated?
Yes, we did.
And did there come a point that you actually lived with your parents, Carlina and Jamie Toledo?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when did that start?
I lived with them while I was pregnant with Chloe. And me and Ori had got our own home. And once we separated, when Chloe was 18 months old, I moved back to my parents' house.
Okay. And did you and Ori ever live with your parents with Chloe?
Yes, we did when she was born.
And for about how long?
For about 7 months.
And then you moved out after 7 months, and then you moved back in about 11 months later.
Yeah, we lived in a home that my parents purchased for us.
Okay. So your parents purchased a home for you guys, for both of you and Chloe?
Correct.
Okay. During that time period that you were living at home initially with Chloe, did your mom and father help you out, and Chloe?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe to the court how they helped out?
My mom would come and help me do laundry. They would give me money for food, give me money for gas to get to my appointments, to take my daughter to her appointments. Everything.
Were there ever times that your parents would get up in the middle of the night to help with Chloe?
Absolutely.
And I guess, was it more you and your parents taking care of Chloe when you were living at home?
Yes.
And was Mr. Cronkite helping, I guess, during that period, or was he working or doing something else?
He was always working with my father. Once I started working, his father would help with Chloe.
Okay. So the best I can tell, or correct me if I'm wrong, is that at least your mother helped you with a lot of things initially during those first 7 months or so that Chloe was born and living with you,
Yes.
Ori, and your parents.
Yes.
Okay. And when you moved out, was there still contact between your parents and Chloe?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you moved. How far away did you move in this house purchased by your parents?
Not even a 10-minute drive.
Okay. How often would your parents be over? One or both?
All the time.
Almost daily?
Yes.
And then during that time period, was that for visitation, or was that for other reasons too?
All of the above.
Okay, could you, just so the court understands, could you describe the reasons why they came over?
My family would come over to just to see like how we were doing. They would come over and barbecue with us outside. My dad would bring over like the push lawnmower so we could mow our grass. Everything.
I know, and I get it. You're saying everything. Can you be any more descriptive? So you said your father brought the lawnmower over to cut the grass and such, and you guys did barbecues. Did your father help around the house with repairs or anything?
Yeah, he helped like with the paint, with our house, with our carpet. We got new carpeting. Him and Ori would put the new carpet in. They would bring us milk. They would bring us formula for Chloe, diapers, anything that we asked for, they were there. Laundry, soap, everything.
Would they bring over clothes for Chloe?
Yes, and for ourselves.
So is it fair to say they were providing financially significantly both for you and Ori and for Chloe?
Yes.
And did they also, I guess, engage with Chloe?
Yes, they did.
Could you describe that to the court? Like, how would they engage with her?
They would be on the floor, crawling around with her, playing with her, helping her stand up to walk. That was their only grandchild.
Is that their only grandchild still?
Yes.
And so they played with Chloe?
Yes.
Were there times that they would actually watch Chloe?
Yeah.
Okay. Were there times that you... I'm sorry, I cut you off. What'd you say?
They would stay with her while we would go out to eat, so we could spend time with one another. Like, we would go to the casino. We would go to Mount Pleasant because Ori wasn't 21. So they would, stay with my daughter.
Were there times that they would watch Chloe overnight because you and Ori went out?
Yeah.
Okay. During that period of time, just that period of time we're focused on right now, about how many overnights on average, whether it was weekly, monthly, or just in general, can you give the court a sense?
Since then?
No. That period of time that you moved out from your parents with Ori and were living with Ori before you moved back in with your parents. About how many overnights would your parents take Chloe?
Like 2 or 3.
So during that entire time, 2 or 3? Or are you talking about month?
Like weekly.
So you're saying they would take them overnight, 2 to 3 overnights a week?
Right.
During that whole approximate 11-month period?
Correct.
And was Ori fine with that?
Yes.
And that was because you and Ori were doing things?
Right.
Was there ever any concerns raised by Mr. Cronkite during that first 18 months of your parents taking care of Chloe?
No.
He never raised an issue?
Never.
Did he ever indicate that they were not appropriately taking care of Chloe?
No.
From your vantage point, when you would come back with Ori, was Chloe well kept? I mean, was she fed and clean and bathed, etc.?
Yes.
Okay. So your parents would make sure that Chloe was always fed, clothed, bathed, and they took care of her 2 to 3 times a week during that 11-month period.
Yes.
How did Mr. Cronkite get along with your parents at that time?
Great. I mean, like they never had an argument.
And you said he was working for your dad, or he was?
Yep.
And what kind of business is that?
A construction business. My father owns Morgan's Concrete and Construction, And that's actually how I met Ori, is through my father.
So during still that time period I'm talking about, did it become evident that Chloe was attached to your parents?
Yes.
Could you describe how you knew that she was attached to your parents?
Because like when we would go over there, she would immediately like want them, like with her hands.
So it was very evident that she was comfortable around them
Yes.
and that she liked them. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Were there times where if you or Ori took Chloe away from your parents that she would cry for them?
Absolutely.
Have your parents ever abused Chloe?
Never. They've never spanked her. They've never put her in timeout.
So did you ever see, and I'm just going to still focus on that time period, did they ever have to discipline her? Because I'm talking when she was approximately 7 month to about 18-month old.
No, they would never have to. She's never did anything wrong.
So after that 18-month period, you and Ori, when Chloe was around 18 months old, I should say, you and Ori separated?
Yes.
Okay. And you had moved back in with your parents?
Yes.
And what did the arrangement with Chloe, what was that arrangement with Chloe as to your parenting time?
50-50, a week on, a week off.
And that was entered by this court previously, correct?
Yes.
And so for how long did that go on where you were living with your parents, 50-50?
Until I was incarcerated.
Do you know approximately when that was?
I couldn't tell you exactly.
Was it over a year?
Yes.
Okay. At least a few years?
Yes.
So a significant period of time. And so let me ask you this. You had testified about how close your parents were with Chloe up until 18 months old. So at this period of time, can you describe to the court how close Chloe was with your parents?
They were very close after she was 18 months old.
Yeah, so when you moved back in with your parents.
They were very extremely close.
And did Chloe, oh, go ahead.
Like we would take, my mom would, she would go swimming. We would take Chloe swimming to my grandfather's. We would take her to eat, shopping, everything.
Did she have her own bedroom at
She
your
does.
parents? Okay.
Yes, she
And
does.
there was some testimony that your mother actually sleeps in that bed. Is that really Chloe's bedroom?
That is Chloe's bedroom. Okay. My mom has her own bedroom with my father.
And did Chloe have clothes and toys at your parents' place?
Yes.
Okay. Did your parents help pay for those?
Yes.
And was she fed appropriately at your parents' house?
Yes.
And did your parents
actually CPS was called on me numerous times by my child's father's wife. And they've came to my mother's
Objection,
home.
I'm gonna say speculation, as any disclosures of who makes the initial call to CPS is always confidential.
Unless she knows. If she doesn't know specifically, then the court would sustain the objection.
Ms. Morgan, do you believe that it was the Mr. Cronkite's current wife that called CPS?
I
Well,
do.
hold on. I think that's the same objection, whether she believes that. If she doesn't have actual knowledge, I'm going to sustain the objection and strike the answer.
Do you have actual knowledge as to who called CPS on you?
Yeah, she told me she did.
Okay. And approximately how many times does CPS get called?
I want to say 7 to 12 times they showed up at my parents' home.
And any of those times, did CPS ever take Chloe away from you?
Absolutely not.
To the best of your knowledge, they found nothing wrong in the house or anything wrong with Chloe?
Correct.
Is that part of the reason why there have been maybe some animosity between his current wife towards you?
Objection, speculation.
Okay. Mr. Bartel?
She can have her opinion. The court can take her opinion for whatever it's worth, just like Miss Reed was asking opinions of Miss Cronkite.
Well, I'll allow it. I don't know that it's really relevant, but I'll allow it.
I guess, Miss Morgan, do you believe that is in part the animosity between Miss Cronkite and you?
I do.
Okay. And so during that time period, was Chloe, she was well fed?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any concerns of abuse towards Chloe?
No.
And was Chloe happy?
Yes.
Was she happy around your parents?
Absolutely.
Did she have a connection to them?
Yes, she did.
And was it a close connection?
A very close connection.
Can you describe that to the court?
She would look forward to going to my parents' house. When it was time for her to leave, she would kick and scream and cry to the point where we would have to.
Well, let me cut you off. I guess I'm a little confused myself. So I'm talking about when you were living with your parents. When you said they were Chloe was kicking or screaming. What do you mean by that?
She didn't want to go back to her dad's house.
Okay, I understand. So you're saying during that time period she didn't want to go back to her dad's house.
Right.
She wanted to stay with you and your parents.
Yes.
Would she cry?
Yes, she would.
And you said she'd kick and scream?
Yes, she would.
Would you have to then physically force her to go over to her father's?
Yes.
And how often would that be happening?
Every time that she would be due to go back to their house. She would my daughter specifically told me out of her mouth that she didn't want to go
Objection,
back.
hearsay.
Sustained. Court will strike the answer. Ma'am, you can't say what Chloe has said.
All right.
But it was clear that she didn't want to go to her father's house.
Right.
Okay. And when she would come back from her father's house, can you describe her emotion when she would see you and your parents?
She would be so happy with joy. She would hug me and hold me and wrap her arms around my neck.
As if she didn't want to leave you.
Right.
So did that continue? Were you in court a second time by Mr. Cronkite taking you back to court then?
Yes.
And do you recall, if you recall, do you recall when that approximately was?
I want to say in 2021.
And did you have an evidentiary hearing?
We did.
Okay. And was your parenting time modified?
Yes, it was.
And what was it modified to, as you recall?
It was recalled that I had joint legal custody of Chloe and that I would see her on Wednesdays and every other weekend.
Okay. And as part of that order, was there ever a request by Mr. Cronkite that you have your parenting time in the presence of your parents?
Yes, it was.
And that was specifically made by Mr. Cronkite.
Yes.
And as Mr. Cronkite indicated that he had trusted and felt Chloe was safe with your parents?
Yes.
And let me ask you this. Had he said that routinely since the birth of your child?
Yes, he has.
Up until the end of 2023?
Yes.
And so you exercise your parenting time every other weekend at your parents', which is what he wanted, correct?
Correct.
And when you exercise that parenting time, that was up until about March of 2022?
Yeah.
And was Chloe close to your parents?
Yes, she was.
She continued to be close in the same fashion as everything you described in those two other phases?
Yeah.
And could you describe to the court the things they would do together? Were there additional new things they would do beyond what you had already described?
Like going to the park, taking her to the park, taking her to go get ice cream. Like she wanted to be with them more than she wanted to be with me.
Did your daughter see them as parental figures?
Yeah.
And so this last time there was some talk about the accident that Kelsey Cronkite got it. Were you incarcerated at that time or were you out?
I was home. That was my visitation day, the day that occurred.
Okay.
And Ori was in the garage with my father, and they left to go and get Chloe from the scene and brought her to me. And then we had to take her to the hospital.
So you went with your parents to the hospital?
I did not go, no, I stayed home.
So your parents then took Chloe to the
Yes.
hospital? So how long after that accident before you were incarcerated?
Like 3 months.
Approximately 3 months. Was Chloe still happy around your parents during that 3-month period?
Yes, she was.
Okay. Was she still closely bonded with them?
Absolutely.
Was she depressed when she was with you guys?
No.
Was she sad?
No.
Was she angry?
No.
Confused?
No.
And was she, like I said, was she hesitant to go to your parents?
No, absolutely not. She would
And
run right to the bedroom door, actually.
Then again, I'm sorry, I got cut out.
She would run right to their bedroom door.
Do you mean when she would be dropped off for the parenting time?
Yep.
So you described when she was with you guys, she was basically the same close connection with the grandparents during that 3-month period before you were incarcerated. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were incarcerated in approximately what, June or July of 2022?
June 29th of 2022.
Okay. And while you have been incarcerated, have you had communication with Chloe?
I've had no communication with her except from December until March, and that was through Ori and Kelsey.
So let me rephrase that. Did you have any communication with Chloe while your parents had Chloe?
Yes, that was the only communication I had with my daughter was through my parents.
Okay. And when your parents, so it was your understanding that your parents continued to have Chloe while you were incarcerated. Is that correct?
Correct.
And approximately how many times a week would you have communication with Chloe during that couple-year period?
I would talk to her like twice a week when she was with my parents through the phone.
So it was pretty routine, twice a week?
Yes.
Did Ori ever at any point reach out to you during that whatever period of time and want to have communication with you?
Not until December of 2023.
But all the way up until December of 2023, he never once reached out to you?
No.
Did his wife, Kelsey?
No.
Did they ever send you any notes from Chloe?
No.
So to your knowledge, there was never any effort by Ori or his wife to have any communication with you?
Not at all until December of 2023.
And they didn't do anything to help facilitate communication between Chloe and you?
Correct.
So in December of 2023, did there come a time that Ori and Kelsey were trying to get you to sign off on your legal rights?
Yes.
And could
I
you
would object
describe?
how this is relevant to grandparenting time.
Mr. Bartel?
It's very relevant, Your Honor. It's relevant because the communication between the mother and the daughter is facilitated through the grandparents. Okay. And we have a published case actually on that. That's right on point. And that is why it's relevant, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Reed, do I have any response?
I still don't see how this method of like communication or not communication is relevant to the grandparenting time today. It's been testified that there can be communication, but Miss Morgan has to initiate that from the jail to Ori.
They first initiated it with
No,
me.
Taylor.
Sorry.
There's no question for you, Miss Morgan.
So, Your Honor, I mean, there it's clear there is a case out there. And let me get it. It's Keenan v. Dawson. Okay. And the facilitation, and there's other ones.
What was the first name?
Keenan versus Dawson. Okay. And it combines the testimony of individuals, and even in that particular case, a general psychologist who had never met with the child. That case dealt with a 2-year-old that passed. However, the psychologist testified specifically, and it was noted in the published opinion, about the harms that a young child can suffer when a parent dies or is not around, and that part of the family is cut off from the child. And the Court of Appeals in its published case, it was never overturned, and it was just a general psychologist or psychiatrist that testified about that, affirmed the trial court's decision that the cutting off of the entire family, and in that case, it was a deceased parent. This one's even stronger. That's why it's highly relevant, Your Honor.
Well,
Can't get even much
I'll
closer.
allow you to go into it, Mr. Bartel, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, Your Honor, I would suggest reading that. That is more than on point in this particular matter, and that is why it's relevant. And I can provide, if the court wants, other cases that actually stand for that same proposition that have cited that particular case. And that is why when they question, why is it relevant to grandparenting? It is relevant.
Okay. Well, I've said I'd allow you to go into it, so go ahead.
So I guess Miss Morgan, was he trying to get you to sign off on your legal custody rights?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Did he indicate why?
No.
Did he try more than one occasion to have you sign off on your legal rights?
Yes, he did.
So
and that we would
just,
and that once I was out of prison, that we would get back to where we were.
okay. But he didn't indicate why he wanted you to sign off on legal rights.
No. I've tried to reach out since March and they will not answer my phone calls.
Okay, let's get into that. There's been some testimony by Kelsey as to they can't get a hold of you at all. That the way the system is that there's no way they can get a hold of you, I guess, except for if they pay for the JPEG write letters, which she acknowledges she doesn't write. But how does that work, I guess, to have communication with people on the phone?
I can call anybody. I get a 1 free phone call every week. But if I want to reach out to someone that doesn't have a phone account, I have to have money on my end, which my family, my mom and my father, put money in my account every month. I have a job in here, so I have my own money. But I can reach out to them and they can reach out to me. I can transfer money to my stamps, to my JPay account, which allows me to purchase stamps. I specifically asked Miss Cronkite every time she would message me to send me a reply stamp, because at that time I didn't have funds to buy stamps. But they initially reached out to me by mail. They wrote me by mail stating that something was happening with my daughter and that they had to put her in counseling and they wanted me to reach out to them. So that's when I first reached out to Ori, and he created a phone account and put money on his phone. But he would be at work, so I couldn't talk to Chloe through him. He wanted me to call Kelsey's phone. So when I called Kelsey's phone, I had to use my own money to talk to her.
But you did have conversations with her on her phone?
Absolutely, with my daughter as well.
And so this statement, as I understand it, that there's no ability for them to get a hold of you and it's all on you, is not accurate?
Correct. The last thing I reached out to Ori when he was working out of state, and he told me to contact Kelsey's phone. And when I did, she had wrote me on JPay. I sent you all of the JPay messages by mail. The last one that she had sent to me was that she couldn't answer because she had no money on her end, but if she would have listened to the prompts, it was a free call.
And so since March of 2024, they have not made any effort to write you letters, send you information from Chloe, or contact you in any means?
Nothing.
Okay. And so you have not had any communication with your daughter since that time period as well.
You're right.
And has there been anything else that Mr. Cronkite has done? I mean, has he shown you anything to try to help facilitate contact with your daughter during that time period from March until now?
No,
And he never did that from July or June of 2022 until December of 23?
you're absolutely right.
Did there come a time when you were talking to your daughter on the phone in December, January, February that we were talking about? So that Kelsey was telling your daughter to tell you things?
Yes.
And what was Kelsey telling your daughter to say?
She was telling her to tell me that my mom had took her to a yellow and brown house and telling her that Ori was not her father.
Did she repeat
And
that?
that she was taken to a yellow and brown house and that my mom had made her wait in a car and that she had introduced her to some man. Telling her that Ori was not her father.
And did she say that or tell Chloe to tell you that multiple times?
Yeah. She even said, I'm going to leave the room. You can talk to your mom.
And then when she said she left the room, she really didn't?
Objection,
Right.
speculation.
Could you still hear Kelsey's voice?
Yes.
So she clearly didn't leave the room.
Right. This all started because my mom was allowing me to talk to Chloe over the phone without asking them permission.
Objection, that's speculation, and the question has not been asked.
Let me ask,
Sustained.
yeah. Miss Morgan, did at any point Ori or his wife tell you that they were upset with your mom talking to you on the phone?
Yes.
And I mean, what specifically did Ori say?
That if they would have just asked permission, that, well, it came out of Kelsey's mouth, but they specifically stated that if the day that my daughter was there visiting them, that if they would have just contacted them stating, hey, Taylor's going to be calling
I'm going to
today.
object. This is hearsay coming allegedly from Kelsey, and that was not testified to previously.
Sustained, unless you can lay a foundation, Mr. Bartel.
So it was your understanding this came about in part that your mother was allowing contact with you,
Correct.
and Ori was not happy about that.
Right.
So the communication stopped when in March? Do you recall?
I want to say like March 5th was the last time that I had received that email from Kelsey. I sent them to your office and I printed them and sent them to you. Did you get those?
Taylor, just answer the questions I'm asking. So did that communication stop after you said, I'm not signing off my legal rights?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And so that was the final time you spoke because you said, I'm not signing off my legal rights.
Right.
So when you talked on the phone with your daughter, did she seem happy when she was in with your parents?
Yeah.
I mean, was she depressed?
No, she was so happy. Sometimes she didn't even want to be on the phone. She was having fun.
Yeah. So there was never any indication based on all these conversations you were having up through November of 2023 that there was a problem going on at your parents' house with the care of Chloe?
No.
I mean, did she always seem in good spirits?
Yeah.
And was there other communication with Chloe? I mean, did Chloe ever send you stuff when she was with your parents?
No, she would do it on pictures, and like my mom would show me, like send them to me through JPay, but she wouldn't send them to me through the mail. They
Okay.
would take pictures of the things she would do and send them to me.
Okay, so you got pictures that Chloe would draw,
Yeah.
and did these
I think
pictures?
this is Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
Sorry, they just were wondering if I had my ID.
Did these pictures ever give you a concern that there was something bad going on when she was in the presence of your parents?
No, absolutely not.
Did they give you any concern that she was sad or depressed in general?
No.
Okay, I mean, what type of pictures were she sending?
Like there was this picture she had drew of a person, and it was like a baby in their belly. And she would say that this was her in my stomach. And it was like my mom and my dad and my little brother. Like little like stick figures.
So she was painting pictures of you and your side of the family as a family with her?
Right.
So we had testimony just recently from Kelsey that they have moved to Kalamazoo. Did they ever reach out to you to ask or agree to move to Kalamazoo?
No, they did not.
What school was she in previously?
She was in Penfield schools,
Okay.
North
And
Penn.
you have joint legal custody?
Yes, I do.
And you had just recently filed a motion for order to show cause with the court with regards to his unilateral decision to take Chloe to a counselor?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And now he hasn't talked to you about moving her to another school district?
Objection, due to the relevance to grandparenting time, this is a separate issue.
Well, as the court had indicated, we're talking also about the best interest factors, which is pretty all encompassing, including whatever the court believes is in the best interest of the minor child or may affect the child. What we have here is Mr. Cronkite, who actually has knowledge and blatantly decides, disregard of your order, Your Honor, to decide to take the child to another school district unilaterally. I mean, he knows he's supposed to have joint, that him and Taylor are supposed to talk together and make those important decisions. And if they can't, then they come to this court. And he knows that because we have filed a motion for order of show cause. And he also knew that he didn't get rid of the joint legal. That's why it's relevant, Your Honor.
Well, court will allow it, but I think you've addressed that as to the fact that he has not communicated. I don't know, going into that in depth in any way, it is relevant.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking at my notes, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Ms. Morgan, are you in full support of your parents having grandparenting time with your daughter while you are incarcerated?
Absolutely.
Do you think it would be in Chloe's best interest to have that contact with your parents?
I do.
And why is that?
Because it's been the same since she's been born.
When you say it's the same, you mean that she's had so much close contact with your parents since she was born?
Yes.
And do you think it'll be negatively impacting her if she doesn't see your parents?
I do.
And do you think it would be a risk to her emotional, psychological well-being to not see your parents?
Objection, that's speculation.
Well, it's opinion, Your Honor, just like Miss Cronkite kind of was allowed to testify on those things.
I'll allow it only as to the defendant's opinion.
I do, Aaron.
And is it because of everything you described as to the closeness and support? I mean, I'm not going to go through everything. Is it based upon everything you've already testified today as to how close they were and the love and affection going both ways?
Yes.
And before you were incarcerated and even after, could you tell that Chloe loved your parents?
100%.
And why do you say that?
Because the way that I would see her eyes, like just the way that she would act, the things that she would do. As soon as she came to their home, she would run up the stairs right into their door. Papa, Nana, that's her papa and her Nana. Like that's her grandparents that she's known since she's been born. She lived in their home. And she's just been snatched away from them. It's not fair.
And do you think that Mr. Cronkite's decision holding Chloe from the grandparents is going to negatively impact the ability to co-parent in the future once you get out?
I do.
And why is that?
Because that's where I'm going to parole to, is to my parents' home.
Does it mean that you can't trust Mr. Cronkite in the future based upon things he has said to you?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Reed, any cross-examination?
Yes, you just indicated that you're going to be paroled to your parents' house. Do you have a date for parole?
No, not at this time.
And do you have another case out of Indiana that you might have to serve time for?
I get to serve my time on a community corrections basis, which is a house arrest program at my parents' home.
And you are certain you qualify for that program?
Yes, I am.
When is your earliest release?
For
Do
Michigan,
you know when you're? Yes.
November 28th.
Is that this year?
Yeah.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Bartel, as a result of that cross?
Well, I do have one clarification. Ms. Morgan, did you go before the parole board this year?
I did.
Okay, so do you know if you are getting out on November 28th of this year?
I'm not.
Okay. So just for clarification purposes, it may be next year before you are released.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll be eligible in July of 2025.
Have your parents? Well, no further questions here.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Reed?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Mr. Bartel, your next witness.
Yes, I would call Carlina Toledo.
Okay. Let me ask this. Obviously you'll probably be with her for a while. Do you want to take a break for lunch and then resume at, let's say, 1 o'clock?
I can do that, or let me double check on one thing. I might have one short witness. Just give me like 30 seconds.
Okay.
If the court, unless the court just wants to go to lunch, that's fine.
No, I'm just, if you've got a short witness, we'll do that. Or I'm just saying because hers is going to take long that I don't want to
Yeah, yes.
start and break it up.
Yeah, let me double check one thing here.
Okay.
Your Honor, I have a witness actually here who has trouble with technology. It's Gloria Coffin, and I think she would probably be a 20 or 30-minute witness at most.
Okay.
If you want me to do that, I can bring her into my office.
Why don't we do that?
Okay, I'm gonna move my computer all around, Your Honor, so I can sit next to her, and so we all can see her. Just give me 1 second. I gotta.
Okay, ma'am, we're going to take some testimony from you, so I need to have you raise your right hand and be sworn in, then we'll proceed.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. Go ahead, Mr. Bartel.
Thank you. Can you state your name for the record, spelling your last?
Coffing, Coffin, Gloria, Gloria.
And do you know Chloe Cronkite?
Yes, I do, sir.
And how do you know her?
She's my great-granddaughter, my granddaughter's Taylor's mom, and my daughter Carlina, grandma.
Okay. And so how long have you known Chloe since birth?
Since birth.
Okay. Have you had extensive contacts with her since birth?
Yes, sir.
And can you describe since birth about how often you would see Chloe?
A lot. I can't recall, but I did a lot.
I mean, is it more on a weekly or at least bi-weekly?
Bi-weekly.
Okay. And that was since her birth?
Yes, sir.
Now, could you describe the close contact or whether there was close contact between Chloe and Carlina and Jamie?
Very close.
Can you describe it to the court?
Yes. I would go over there with my daughter every time Chloe would be there to spend some time with her, me and my granddaughters. And at the beginning, we would see her a lot, but then we would see her every other weekend and every Wednesday. And I would try to be there to see Chloe.
And when you saw Chloe interact with her grandparents, and I'm just going to, for purposes of this, every time I say grandparents, it's Carlina and Jamie. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And could you describe, was she happy to see them?
Very, very happy.
And can you describe what she would do?
Oh, she would just go and jumped on them and hugged them and loved them, and they would love each other.
Was there ever a time period in which Chloe was sad, depressed around her grandparents?
No, never. She was always happy when she see us, when she saw us.
And did you ever witness times where she didn't want to go back home?
Oh, yes. She would put a fit on. She didn't want to go. And she would tell Papa, Nana, please call my dad.
Objection, you're saying.
Sustained. Ms. Coffey, you
Okay.
can't say what the child says.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
But it was clear she didn't want to go home.
Yes,
Good.
clearly, clearly.
And would she then start getting sad and depressed because she had to go home?
Yes, she did.
Um,
That's the truth, the honest truth.
And was that the case even leading up to November of 23? 23?
Yes, yes, sir.
And was that pretty though routine, even for the last 3 or 4 plus years that she didn't want to go home?
Oh, yes.
And were you ever strike it? Did the grandparents take care of Chloe for the last couple of years, up
Yes.
until the time that they were not able to
Yes.
see her?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
they did.
And what did they do for her?
Well, my daughter showed her how to write her name, Chloe, and I have the paperwork where she said, look, my nana. Oh, I can't say that.
Objection,
I'm
hearsay.
I'm sorry.
Abstain.
I'm sorry. They did a lot together. They would bake cupcakes and cookies together. She would give her a bath and read a book for her. And we would pray for her to go to bed. And when she went to sleep, my daughter would go to her room and I would go to the couch and I would sleep in the couch. Sometimes I would stay the night with them.
Did they provide financial support for
Oh,
Chloe?
yes. Oh, yes. We all did, even me.
And could you describe to the court the financial support that you provided?
We gave them money. We buy them medicine. We buy them clothes. I even took her to Kohl's to get clothes for all the kids, not just my granddaughter.
When you say all the kids, who do you mean by all the kids?
Uriah and the little one, which I don't really recall his name.
Okay, but is that Kelsey Cronkite's kids?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I buy something for Chloe, I would buy some for them too, because I would feel sad to take something to Chloe and not to them.
Okay. And do you see the grandparents do that as well?
Oh, yes, all the time.
So they'd be buying gifts and clothes and other items for Mr. Cronkite's other kids.
Yes, they did. Especially in school time, he would buy them all their clothes for school and pictures, pay for the pictures.
Did you ever see the grandparents either physically or mentally abuse Chloe?
Oh, never. They will always loved her.
Would they ever, if Chloe ever had to be disciplined, do you know, or did you ever witness what they would do?
Well, they would just put her in timeout for a little while.
But there was no yelling or screaming or physical
Oh,
abuse.
never. I never saw that.
And you had indicated Carlina would bathe Chloe
Yes.
and she would put her to bed
Yes.
and read stories
Yes. Books. Yes.
and prepare meals for her.
Yes.
Would she empathize with Chloe if something going on or wrong with her?
I
mean, was she there for her if Chloe had an issue?
Oh, yes. She's always been there for her.
And if Chloe had an issue, would she go to Carlina and Jamie?
Yes. Yes.
Would the grandparents ever put their needs in front of Chloe's needs?
I don't understand.
Would they put their needs,
Yeah.
their needs and wants before Chloe's needs, or would they always put Chloe first?
Always put Chloe first.
And she openly showed signs of affection to both of them?
Oh, yes. Very.
Do you have I'm just asking a personal knowledge. Do you have personal knowledge of them taking care of Chloe when she was sick?
Yes. Many times.
Okay. Were there times that she was over there when, because Mr. Cronkite and his wife were not going to take care of her when she was sick?
Yes.
Okay. And so they would take care of her and buy medicine and make sure she got healthy?
Yes. One time my daughter had to work and my son-in-law had to work, and my daughter gave me some money to go buy some Pedialyte and some drinks and medicine for her, and I took it to her house.
So you even went out of your way
Yes,
because everyone else was busy to make sure she was taken care of.
yes, sir. I even took Kelsey to Kohl's and buy her clothes, and she picked up clothes for Chloe and her boys.
And you paid for all of it.
I charged all of it, $400 and something. She went with me to pick up the clothes.
So is it fair to say when Mr. Cronkite and his wife wanted something, they would actually be nice to you guys?
Yeah, they were nice.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Did the grandparents help Chloe with, I guess, her learning?
Oh, yes. My daughter would, she's the one that showed her how to write her name. And my daughter would let her do her hair, my hair, because she wanted to be a beautician like her nana, like her grandma, Carlene. So I went and bought her a case with like a hair dryer and, you know, like kid stuff to do hair, because that's what she wanted to be. She wanted to be a beautician like her nana.
Almost like a role model?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And were you ever around when the grandparents would have Chloe talk to Taylor Morgan on the phone since
Yes,
she's been incarcerated?
Sometimes.
You were around sometimes?
Yes.
Okay, was she excited to talk?
Oh, very
your
excited.
mother?
Very excited. They have a song that they sang together, and she always asks, put me mama's song on the phone.
Do you ever see a time when the grandparents did not properly supervise the child?
No, they always did.
Okay. I mean, did she ever have any accidents that you can think of while she was in the care of the grandparents?
No, never.
And was Chloe ever in any extracurricular activities or other things, I guess, that you guys went to events?
Oh, yeah, we went to event. We went to Chuck E. Cheese. I even took her son with us one time.
When you say her son, we gotta clarify. Is that,
Zachary. I think that's his name,
are you
Zachary.
talking about Kelsey and Ori's son?
Yeah, close. Yeah, no, her son.
Kelsey's son?
Yeah, I took him to Chuck E. Cheese with me,
Okay.
with us.
And so you guys would, what was that for?
To spend time with them and for them to have fun.
Yeah.
We would buy pizza and would feed. I would feed them. Me and my granddaughter would take them and feed them. And
Is it fair to say that you, Carlina and Jamie, Taylor, your entire family are very close?
yes, we are very close.
And would Chloe see all the different family members on a
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
regular basis?
Yes, yes.
Did she ever have any issues that you could see around any of the family members?
No, never.
Okay. Did she enjoy herself?
Oh, yes.
She wasn't sad or depressed
No.
around you guys?
No. In the summertime, we would take her to the park, me and my granddaughters. My two granddaughters. I raised them, and we would take them. We would take her to the park and play in the park with her.
Did you at any time ever see the grandparents hinder the father's parenting time with Chloe at any point?
I don't recall.
I mean, did they ever like stop him from seeing Chloe? Carlina and Jamie.
No, not that I recall.
Let me ask, would they cooperate with Ori the best you could tell?
Oh, yes.
How, from your perspective, how did they treat Ori?
Oh, very good. Very, very good.
Could you expound upon that? What do you mean?
They were closed. They were closed until November, that everything, when, you know, I wasn't there when it happened. But she did call me. I was in Texas when all this happened.
And did you ever hear Ori ever, I mean, would he talk good about Carlina and Jamie?
Oh, yes, all the time.
And what types of things would he say about them?
He said, "Oh, I can't believe how much Chloe loves you guys."
And did he say that a lot?
Yes,
And was that during the time period he was also working with Jamie at his construction place?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How close up into time was the last time you heard him say that they treated Chloe so well?
I really don't recall, but I remember the one time in September.
Of 23?
Yes. Yeah, last year in September, not this year. Last year in September.
Okay. And that was you think he was making those comments then?
Yes.
Any other comments he was making other than raving about how great they were and couldn't believe how close they were?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Did there come a point after December of 2023 that Mr. Cronkite threatened to call the police on you?
Yes, it was. I have the text. It was in February. I was just checking into it. I had been trying to see my great-granddaughter, and I was begging him to see my great-granddaughter, and he said to me, "Stop calling me and texting me, because I'm going to call the cops and get you for harassment." And I said, "Why, Chloe? Why are you doing that to me? I've never done anything to you. I've been good to you guys." And he said, "Well, you better stop, because I'm going to call the police and get you for harassment."
Right before he did that, did he lead you to believe that you could see your granddaughter?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and what did he say?
He said I could go over at about 5:30, and when it was ready for me to go, I got the text, and that's when he told me that for me to stop texting him and calling him, that he was going to call the cops on me for harassment.
Just for clarification purposes, so originally did you reach out to see Chloe and he said it would be okay?
At one time, yes,
Yeah.
when I came back from Florida.
Okay, and then you tried to follow up on that text, and that's when he said you were harassing him?
Yes, sir. I got everything on my phone and my text.
Okay. And did you stop them?
Yes, I sure did. I stopped because I didn't want no problems. I don't want no problems with nobody.
Did you do anything or say anything to him that you're aware of that would have warranted that kind of response or behavior?
No, sir, nothing, nothing. I was good to them. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't understand it.
Does Chloe have any special needs that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. We were always there for her.
Was there a time period in which you, in October or November of 23, that you did take Chloe because there was fighting going on between Mr. Cronkite and his wife?
Yes, I remember my daughter called me and said, "Mom."
Well, you can't say.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, Ori dropped her off about 5:30 in the morning. And he said that him and his wife had left, and that he didn't want her to take Chloe. So he dropped Chloe at my daughter's house. And he left her there until Monday when she got back. And
So that was about 4 days, 5 days that she stayed there?
yeah, about, let's see. I want to make sure. I don't want to.
Take your time.
I think it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. That's when she came back on a Monday.
When you say she, you mean Kelsey
Kelsey
Cronkite?
Cronkite. Yeah, and then I don't recall if she picked her up or we dropped her off. I don't recall that time.
You said 5:30 in the morning on Thursday or Wednesday?
I think it was. I don't recall.
Okay.
Aaron,
Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday, yes, yes. Yes.
And did you take Chloe just for part of that time?
Yes, I sure did for a little while because my daughter had to work and I stayed there with her for a couple hours.
Yep.
And then we took her to her other grandma's work.
You say other grandma, do you mean
Tammy
Mr. Cronkite's
Cronkite,
mom?
Yes, I took her there for a little while and then I took her back to the beauty shop because my daughter was down working.
And did Chloe understand what was going on between Kelsey and Ori?
Oh, yes, but she told her grandma Tammy Cronkite what was going on.
Was she afraid?
She was scared. She looked like she was scared. She was talking to her grandma. I told her, tell Tammy what's going on. So she did.
Yeah. But Chloe was clearly scared of what was going on.
Yes.
And so she knew what issues were going on between Mr. Cronkite
Yes,
and his wife.
sir. She was.
And do you know whether or not you and the grandparents were able to console her during that time period?
Yes. And Tammy did too, for grandma.
Right. And so when's the last time you have seen Chloe?
Jesus. Oh, let's see. Remember, it was on November. Because I tried to get a hold of him in February.
So November of 2023?
Yes, 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 sir. Yes,
And then did you leave the state of Michigan for a little bit?
yes, for a little bit. My daughter, I've adopted 5 children, so my adopted daughter sends me my flight ticket twice a year to go see my other grandkids and my other great grandkids. So I usually see her when I leave and when I get back. Chloe used to.
And that had happened for around 5 years.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, sir.
Has there been anything else that you can think of that Ori has told you that was concerning with regards to Chloe in the last few years? Let me ask you a different question. Did he ever indicate to you prior to the end of November 2023 that the grandparents were not appropriate to be with Chloe?
Not that I recall.
Did he acknowledge that they had a very close bond?
Oh, yes,
Did he acknowledge that she was happy to see them?
yes.
Okay.
And he told me that he didn't want us to take her to Chuck E. Cheese or shopping or anything like that. That needed to stop.
Okay,
So we stopped.
when was that?
Oh, and I don't remember.
Okay, sometime in 2023?
Yes, on 2023.
Okay, there came a point when, did he say why he didn't want you guys to take Chloe to Chuck E. Cheese or pamper her?
Yes, because she said that her other kids didn't do that stuff and that Chloe would go over there and talked about it. And that's what she said. I just don't understand it.
So your understanding was that Chloe was getting special treatment. Is that fair to say with you guys?
Yes,
And they wanted that to stop.
yes, yes, sir.
Anything else did he say needed to stop that you recall in 2023? To you?
No, just for us not to take her shopping or Chuck E. Cheese or.
But after that, did anyone, either Kelsey or Ori, reach out to you and then ask for you to purchase clothes?
Oh, yeah, well, like in the school, before school started.
So what I'm asking though is after that statement or statements were made to you, did they, either meaning Kelsey or Ori, reach out to you and then ask for you guys to financially support them further?
She always did my daughter, my son-in-law, but not me. I always just give them money because I wanted to help.
Okay, so you would actually give them cash.
Oh, yes, he knows I always give him cash. And I even started a fund for Chloe. I would give the her grandma, Tammy, money to put on her account, on Chloe's account. So when she got older.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Reed, any cross?
Briefly, Ms. Coughing, when you said the last time you saw Chloe was November of 2023, correct?
Correct.
And when was the last time you had contact with Ari? Was the text message in February?
Yes, and I got the text message on my phone right now.
When was the last time you had contact with Kelsey?
The last time I had were when I don't recall, it was when I was in Texas. She called me. My son-in-law was having a heart attack. He was in the hospital. And I told her that I couldn't talk much because I had to go to the hospital to see my son-in-law in Texas. That's when I was in Texas.
Isn't it true that you were in a vehicle with Alyssa Toledo, Andrea Toledo, and you blocked Kelsey in a parking lot recently?
That's a lie. The police came to my house. She was pulling out, and I was trying to pull in when she was pulling out. And there's a camera, and the cop said he was going to go and see the camera. I have never threatened them. I've been good to them. I've been really good to them. And I'm telling you the honest truth.
Have you been to their home?
Yes, I have.
Have you driven past their home recently?
Recently, no, just when we would go with the cops to try and get Chloe when my daughter had permission to do it, when she had the paperwork.
Do you remember when that was?
I don't recall, ma'am. I'm 78 years old. I don't recall. I'm just telling you the truth and the honest truth.
Was that this year?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Because the judge had ordered my daughter to have her every other weekend. And I would go with my daughter.
You would bring the police with you?
Yes, we would take the police because they would take off.
I have no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else, Mr. Bartel?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ma'am, thank you. That will conclude your testimony. You're free to go. Have a wonderful day. And why don't we take a lunch break and be back at 1:30 p.m.